Hello, everyone. Ketchi1383 with Ketchi Gaming. And now that I'm back from being sent out in the middle of nowhere, I am able to make a video on one particular game that I missed that I want to just basically give my first impressions, and that is Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment, which is supposed to sort of take part at the same time as Tears of the Kingdom in terms of the cutscenes that you have with Zelda in the past. So it takes place during that portion of the game. But if it's anything like Age of Calamity, it's going to be its own thing. They say it's going to be telling the story of events before the Calamity, but it really didn't. It turned into its own entirely different thing involving time travel, and it was super convoluted, and it just went right off into the left field. So I have no doubt that this game will probably do the exact same thing at some point or another. The story of Age of Imprisonment revolves around Rauru and Zelda and a bunch of other characters that they've introduced and maybe gone more depth in, like the champions they chose from each of the various races. And currently, as far as I am into the game, no Link in sight, although they have one character that is definitely a stand-in for Link, which is the Construct that I'm just going to call Construct Link, and I'll show you what he looks like. I won't speak for everyone, but there's no doubt in my mind that this is supposed to be a Link-esque character that they put in the game because, let's face it, Link, if we go by the story, is several thousand years separated from Zelda and the events of what takes place in this game. So Construct Link there is just going to be Link's stand-in for the time being. We'll see what happens. Something tells me they're going to do another convoluted time travel thing, but we'll see. So with that, though, I am curious as to what they're going to do, and it's one of the major factors why I keep playing the game. I am enjoying it for the most part. I mean, it does have its flaws. It is a bit button mashy, to say the least. With a very simple combo system that does have some complexity to it, but it does get a little repetitive to a bit of a boring side, depending on what you're doing. Yes, they do mix up the battlefields and stuff like that, which does actually relieve some of the boredom of just mashing X and Y constantly. And they actually did something that I don't quite remember if they did in Age of Calamity because it's been a while since I played that. But I played the original Dynasty Warrior games, which this kind of is based off of, where the enemies would disappear and die, which I don't know if that was just due to hardware limitations, but when you played the Hyrule Warriors game, you would kill them and they would just immediately spawn back, so you just have nothing but constant waves of enemies, which did make the game really boring because you're just constantly fighting the same group of enemies pushing X and Y all the time. Now, this game does try and incorporate some of the elements from Tears of the Kingdom into the gameplay style, and some things that were from the Age of Calamity also make it through, like dodging, which came from the games itself, allowing you to land multiple hits on an enemy and knocking down its guard so you can do a special move on it. But in Tears of the Kingdom, they have the Zoanhide devices, like the shock emitter, the flame emitter, the water hydrant, and a couple of other things. And it uses battery life. It's more or less a way for you to counteract the elements of whatever creatures are using them at whatever point in time. I mean, they have other things as well that do different things depending on what you want to do with them. Now, to sort of mix it up, they have the officers or the boss units in the game. They do special moves, and you can counter said special moves with your own special moves if you get it right. If you get it wrong, yeah, you can take some damage, but sometimes it does last long enough for you to negate the damage, but you lose an opportunity to knock away its defense and allowing you to do special damage to it with a special move. So, like I said, there is some complexity to it. It's not just simply mashing the X and Y button all the time, which helps alleviate some of the more boring aspects of the combat and kind of forces you to pay attention so you don't just zone out and just constantly smash the buttons hoping for some kind of combo that'll work. And they do actually have some somewhat complicated combos where you do have to get timing right in order to perform said combos. Now, for me, where this game stands out is in its cinematics and its appearance. It's very much in line with that of Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild. I mean, I really can't complain about the appearance because it's very much the same art style from the game, and they just actually applied said art style to a Dynasty Warriors game with a Zelda theme, and it works really well. The cutscene for the story, they are very much in line and on par with what you would see in Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild. I really can't complain about that in any shape or form. And admittedly, I'm probably not the best person to judge voice acting, but from the sounds of it, they're doing a pretty good job. I know some people didn't really care for Zelda's voice in Breath of the Wild. I didn't really hear anyone voice any dislikes for Zelda in Tears of the Kingdom, but so far I like the voice acting in this game. Can't really complain about that. And the sound design is pretty good. It sounds exactly just like, again, Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild, like it should, because it's based off of those games. Now, would I recommend the game? Honestly, I'm just going to say I don't know, because it's not going to be the same gameplay style as Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom, which I don't think anybody should actually expect that, but just in case you do for some odd reason, it's not. It's more along Dynasty Warriors / let's say Hyrule Warriors, where you just fight waves of enemies. And like I said, it can get a touch on the boring side when you're just killing too many of the groups of enemies, but at least they actually have an end to the groups, unlike previous iterations of the game. I'm looking at you, Hyrule Warriors. And the dodging and the blocking is a bit sluggish in this game. That's actually my biggest complaint about it. Is it feels like the dodging isn't so much for negating damage as it is for you to try and allow you to get in a flurry attack to down its guard. Because sometimes you get some of the bigger enemies with wide sweeping attacks, and the dodge does absolutely nothing unless you're super, super quick about it and get out of the direction of the attack. But there's like a weird second delay in terms of getting the block or the dodge to work. And I haven't tried it yet, where I time the block to be at last second. That way it sort of opens it up to a flurry attack as well. I'll have to try that to see if that's a thing. But like I said, it feels sluggish and kind of clunky, which is my only real issue with the combat in terms of negating damage. But overall, it is an enjoyable time so far. And if you're starved for new Legend of Zelda content, this is probably the best you're going to get for a couple of years. I mean, I kind of suspect they'll announce something next year for the Legend of Zelda 40th anniversary. What, I don't know exactly, but I'm guessing they'll try and align something up with the movie as well. But until then, this is going to have to tide you over. Is it Legend of Zelda? What's to say, not in the traditional sense, but it is a Zelda game for all intents and purposes. That's enough of me rambling if you made it this far. Thanks for watching. Now I have to get through and do another Arc Raiders video. Yay!